Hi guys, so here's the first video in our series of how to put together our bead kits. So as you can see, everything that's included in the kit is here. I do have a video going through all the parts. I have a little tray here that I'm going to use, obviously not included in the kit. You can make your own with some felt and a little dish, or you can use any kind of like dish with a low edge to pour out your beads on. So I'm going to start with one of my earring blanks. I'm going to take one of my pieces of thread. I'm going to pour out some of my A colored beads because that's the color in this row here. I'm just going to pour them out onto my tray. Okay, these little containers that the beads come in will open one color at a time, so it's kind of nice because you can just pour out the color that you want. You can bead do your whole project leaving your beads in the container if you want. It's just a little bit more awkward. So then I'm going to take one of my sections of thread and remove it from the card. They'll each remove individually so you don't, the other two can stay wrapped around your card while you do your project. Right, and they won't get tangled up. The thread, each piece of thread should be enough to complete one earring. So I'm just going to pause. You guys don't need to watch. Okay, now that I've got that thread all unwound from my card, I'm going to attach it to one of my earrings. So for the lotus pieces, we're just going to tie it, for all of the pieces you're going to tie it on, but the lotus pieces, as you can see here, we're just using the bottom edge of the flower. I wish I had a finished pair of these earrings sitting in front of me so that I could show you what it's going to look like. There we go. I like to tie 3 knots. Occasionally that becomes problematic when we go to pass our last pass through because the knot sometimes blocks the hole of the bead, but I'd rather have to fight with the needle a little bit than have my knot come undone. Okay, so there we go. I've tied it on there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to thread the other end of my thread onto my needle. All right, so here's my thread. The needle that will be included are these big eye needles, which are my favorite. So the 2 pieces, I don't know if you guys can see that. It's hard to see. They just separate like that, and then you can easily pass your thread through. So they are pretty easy to thread. I would not recommend these projects if you struggle with fine motor or if you have trouble seeing, because you do need to be able to do both fairly well in order to complete these. All right, so now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pick up 2 of my beads. So as you can see in this pattern here, the entire first row is all one color, so we don't have to worry about switching colors. This is the only row we're worrying about, and this is the only time we're working this way. The rest of the time we'll be working up and down our pattern like this. So, all right, I'm going to take my 2 beads, I'm going to push them all the way down my thread, and I apologize, there are some times where my hands kind of leave the screen. There we go. So now they're there at the end. Then we are going to take our thread, and normally you're going to go front to back. It doesn't really matter that much on this. So we're going to go this way, and we're going to just pull that thread all the way through. This is the trickiest part of the whole project. Now, I know that I'm going to fit 5 beads here, 1 bead in the center here, and 5 beads on this side. So I'm going to try to space my first few beads. Oh, I'm going to move them actually a little bit closer to the center. Move my knot in a bit. There we go. Okay, put it there. The tail of the thread is just going to come off to the side. It's actually kind of a pain at the beginning because it's sort of in the way. We're going to tie off to it at the very end. So I've come around. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to let go of those beads. I've come around from the front of my piece of work to the back, so I can tell it's the back because that's the hook is facing that way. If my hook wasn't on there, it wouldn't matter at all. on this particular design. On some of the designs, there's like some engraving on the front, so it might matter. Then I'm going to pass it the opposite direction through. I'm going to actually pass through both beads, but I'm going to do one at a time. So there we go, passing through that bead. Okay. Then I'm going to pass through my first bead. Okay, pull my thread all the way through. When the thread's long like this, so right now the beads are kind of, they're laying the same way. What we want is we want the holes to point away from my piece of wood. So I'm going to come back this way and I'm going to go up just through this second bead here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Trying to make sure you can see, but it's hard. The light is not. There we go. So I'm going to go this through this bead right here and up. And then once I pull that nice and tight, my beads will lay down the proper way. So I'm going to just hold them there for you guys to see. So there they are. I'm going to move this guy out of the way because I think that makes it a little easier. There you go. All right. Then I'm going to put 3 more beads here, 1 bead here, because this is at 11 total across this line. I've got 11 beads total. So I'm just going to go pick up another bead. I'm going to push the bead all the way down into my piece of work. So there it is. It's down there. You see it? Then I'm going to pass. Oops. I'm going to hold the bead into my work. I'm going to pass my needle back through my piece of work here. And I'm going to come up through here. Okay, and again, that just allows my beads to sit all nicely along the wood. There you go. There's 3. We're going to put 2 more in here and then 1 into the center to give me my first 6. Okay, so pick up a bead from my little tray here. I've attached my piece of felt right to my tray because sometimes if your needle hooks into your felt, the felt will lift and then beads go everywhere. So if you can attach, if you're going to pour your beads onto felt and you can attach the felt down to something a little heavier, then that won't happen. So there we go. Again, I've pushed that bead all the way down into my work. I'm holding it there with my finger. I'm going to pull the thread through and then I'm just going to find the hole. There we go. There. Okay. Whoops, I'm caught on my tripod. There we go. Okay. So now we have 4. I'm going to show you that center one, and then after that, I'm going to speed this up because you don't want to watch me put that whole row of beads on. Okay. So there, I'm just going to hold that bead in. Here it goes. There's the bead. Okay. Catch him. Alright, when the threads are long, this is the trickiest part, especially when you have a tripod down there somewhere that threads keep getting caught in, but you guys won't have that. There we go. There. And I'm going to put 1 more in the center. Okay, so on these ones, because there's like this neat little center piece, you can kind of like line up your beads so that you know your middle row is going to stay right there in the middle. So I looped it through, so it's going to come around right in the middle of that. Whoops, sorry, you can't see that. Right in the middle. There it is, right there. And pull it all the way through. There we go. So we have the beginning of that. Okay guys, so we've put on almost all the beads in that first row. I've got one more bead to add. I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to put it on, and I'm going to show you the next steps. So same way we put on every other bead in this row. Sorry, I keep getting my thread caught on things. Normally I don't have to look in a camera while I bead. Okay, so we put it on this way, the same. Go up through that bead. Oops, my thread crossed over there. Okay, pull it through all the way. All right, so there we go. We could just move on to the next step from here, but I like to keep these nice and tight at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back down through the second to last bead. Okay, so just push my needle down through there. There we go. And then I'm going to go back up through the final bead. That way, if I put the work down at this point, I'm not gonna have the tension change on it. It's gonna stay nice and tight. Okay, so there we go. All right, now next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna move on to making our rows of beads that come out from here. We can do it one of two ways using our pattern. So we can either just look at the pattern here and read down the row. All right, this one's pretty simple. Some of them that are a little bit more complex, you might want to go to the word chart here. Okay, we're always going to ignore the first bead in the word chart because we've already put it on. So the one letter A bead, the first one, so this one here, we've already put it on. So we'd start with 1B, 1C, 1E, 1D, 5E, and so on. I'm going to show you a little trick that I like to use. Okay, so here's a little trick I like to use. So I'm going to set up my tray to bead. So I'm going to set it up like this, and I'm going to just put, in case I get confused as to what color is what, I'm going to put these little letter beads. Okay, so this is A. It's going to go with my A beads. I'm going to put B, C, D, E. Okay, and then I'm going to take my little beading tray guy here. I'm going to make sure everything's closed except for the beads I want to pour out. So these are my B beads. So I'm just going to pour a few of them onto my tray. Okay, so there's B. And then I'm going to take my C beads and do the same thing. Just pour a few out onto my tray. And then my D beads are these gold ones. I'm going to pour a few of them into my tray. And then E are these cream off-white colored beads, and I'm going to pour them onto my tray. Okay, so there we go. I got my beads all set up. So now I can just go ahead and read my pattern and put the fringe on. Okay, I am tangled again in my tripod. Okay, and on the edge of my table. Okay, here we go. All right, so here's my piece of work. So I've already done A. I'm going to ignore the first bead always. I'm going to go 1B, 1C, 1E, 1D, 1D, 5E, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5E. Okay, and you're going to read whatever pattern you have. This pattern happens to be the one that we're working with today, but they'll all be similar in that they'll have the beads labeled by color, by letter, And so, like I said, you can change up the colors. I wouldn't recommend switching the colors once you've received your kit. So if A is dark green, I would use the colors in the letters that are assigned, because some of the colors, some colors will require more beads, and the kit will be sent with the beads required. Okay, DE, 1C, 1B, 1A, 1D, 1A. Okay, so that's my entire first piece of fringe on my needle. Then I'm just going to push it all down. I'm going to pull it all down to the work. Okay, there it is. All right, then I'm going to go back up through the whole string except for the very last bead I put on. So I'm going to take that bead out. Okay, it happens to be an, oh, nope, I missed a bead somewhere, 1A. Oh my goodness. Okay, so somewhere I misread my pattern. So B, 5D, 1D, 1E, 1C, 1B, 1A, 1D. This should have been an E bead, not an A bead. Not sure what I was thinking there. So I'm going to fix that mistake right now. That one comes off. Okay, I'm going to put my E bead on there. There's my E bead. There it is. It's on there. Okay. And then now I'm going to go back. So I'm going to take that last bead. I'm going to hold it away from the work. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to put it through the whole strand of beads. Now, I like to kind of hold it like this so that it stays nice and straight. Okay, once I get to the end, there's my strand of work. I am going to, I have the back of the earring facing me, which I prefer. I'm going to go up through the bead that's attached to the wood. Okay, so see, I don't know if you can see that. Needle is going right through there. And then I'm going to pull it all the way through. I keep getting caught on things. There we go. Pulling it all the way through. So sometimes you get like a loopy thing like this. That happens. Just hold the end bead and pull it all together until you have a nice clean fringe. There we go. There's fringe 1 done. We're going to pass that needle back down through the neighboring bead, the one that doesn't have a fringe on it yet. Okay, pass it back down through there. Tripod really wants to tangle in my thread. Okay, so there we go. Pass back down through there. And we're going to move on to our next row. So I'm going to set down my work so I can take my needle and pick up my beads. Here we go. So this one says 4A. So we're only going to put on 3A because one of them's already on there. So here we go. We're going to go 1, 2, whoops, 2, 3A, 1B, 1C, 1E, 1D, 5E, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5E, 1D, 1E, 1C, 1B, 2A, 1D, 1E. There we go. Okay, so there's my next fringe all on there. Okay, pushing it all the way down and into my work. There we go. Face that back towards me. Hold it out. send my needle back up, except for the very last bead. So there's that very last bead. It's right, whoops, just fell down. It's right there. Okay, right there, very last bead. Don't pass back through there or all of your beads will fall off. Okay, it's the bead that holds it all together. Pass the needle all the way through. And that time I got it nice and clean all the way through, even the bead that's attached to the work. There we go. Then we pass it all the way back through here. Okay, and again, sometimes there's a little tangle happens. That's what's happened here. So just take that little tangle out. There we go. Hold that end bead and just pull until everything shifts along and comes nice and clean. You have a nice clean fringe. So there's the second one. I'm going to move on. I'm going to do the third one for you, and then I'm going to speed the video up so that you can, so you don't have to watch me put on all the rest of the fringes. I think there's like 8 more after this in this pattern. So back down through the neighboring bead, and then I will show you how to tie the, come back and show you how to tie it all off at the very end. Okay, so there we go. And we're going to go to row 3. So again, row 3 starts with 6A. We're going to go to 5 because we've already put one on. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1B, 1C, 1E, 1D, 5E, 2, 3, 4, oops, 4, 5, good, 5E, 1D, 1C, 1B, 3A, whoops, 1, 2, 3, 3A, 1D, and 1E. There we go. All right, so that's my, I'm just gonna move this because it's getting very sunny there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so again, back of the work facing me, grab my final bead, take it out of the way, starting the second from the end bead, push my needle all the way through my whole row, and back. So I missed that top bead this time, which is okay. That happens. And then I'm just going to go through top bead all by itself. So there we go. And I'm just going to pull my thread all the way through. Got lots of loopy loops here. There we go. We got 3 nice clean fringes, and back down, and we're going to keep going like that until we get to the end. Okay. There we go. All right. Okay guys, so I'm back to show you the last strand and then how we're going to tie this and finish it off. So I've gone through all of these. It took about 20 minutes. So when you look at the elapse, like we're going to speed it up a lot, but the rest of those took about 20 minutes. So you're probably looking at like, I'm going to say even for somebody who's pretty new, you can probably get an earring done in under an hour for this style. Anyway, so we're going to go back down through that last bead. Okay, we're going to pick up, here we go, put that through there. Okay, there you are. All right, so this is the last fringe. So we're going to follow the pattern again. Just a reminder, you're skipping that first bead. So the first letter A bead we're skipping because we've already added it. We're going to pick up a B. So start 1B, 1C, 1E, 1D, 5E, 2, 3, 4, 5E. Okay, 1D, 1E, 1C, 1B, 1A, 1D, and 1E, and then that's it. It's our last fringe. Okay, again, just like all the others, slide the beads down to your work. Pull the last bead out. We're not going to put the needle back through that one. Put your needle up through the rest of the beads. And we're going right back up through that final bead that's attached. Put that through there. Okay. Make sure there's no little loops in that strand, that it's just a nice clean fringe. There it is. Okay, then we're going to take, so we should have a little tail left over from when we first started. So we have a tail. We're going to tie our tail to the end of our thread. Again, I like to triple knot it. 1, 2, and 3 knots. Okay. This is what our little earring. If your fringe doesn't want to lay nice, just roll the beads around in your fingers until it does. There is our little earring right here. It's on up. Trying to get it so you can see it nicely. There we go. And then the final step, I just need to find my scissors. Okay, so for this final step, we're going to use the scissors. We're going to take the long string that's attached to our needle and we're going to clip it so that it's the same length as the short tail. All right, I'm going to undo the long piece. We're going to take that right off our needle. That's extra now. Okay, so you actually get quite a bit of extra thread. Like I said in the video that explained what's included in the kits, you get an entire extra length of thread in case you get a big tangle and you need to start over or something. Everything else could be reclaimed, but your thread, if it gets really tangled, there's no saving it. Then you're going to push your needle down through just a section of those beads. It doesn't have to go all the way through. Section of the beads. You're going to take your 2 tails, separate the pieces of your needle. Okay, so again, it's those big eye needles. So there we go. We separate them out, put our tails in, tuck them in there, and then we're just going to pull the tails down through the beads. And clip them off. And again, there, you have a finished piece. Okay, that's it. There it is. All right, hope you've enjoyed this. Please message me if you have any questions or if you need any help as you're working through your kit. Thanks so much for watching.